Michelle Obama.
Okay, let's not blame Michelle. We blame the Department of Agriculture, and not Michelle. Michelle was not in charge.
Wait, what about this?
Department of Agriculture is the one that dispenses food stamps and free and reduced lunches for, and makes the rules for lunch rooms for free and reduced lunches. Now, the only reason why they can control what we eat at Bishop Carroll is because we use those free and reduced lunches, so they can tell us what to serve. If we didn't do free and reduced lunches, then they couldn't tell us what to serve our kids. Now, the fact that we do, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take free and reduced lunches, what I'm saying is we should just say, okay, why does the government get to control what we eat?
Makes sense.
Now, you're different than Oscar. Okay, Oscar, what are you doing after school? Where at? Okay, you got to walk around a lot. Okay, so you need calories. Okay, you're playing football. You need calories. Okay, Johnson, what are you doing after school? Where at? Okay, moving around a lot. Yeah, you need calories. Who's going home and doing homework? All right. No, you got volleyball.
Yeah, well, I do that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Everybody's different, right? So, serve everybody the same exact thing. Pretty much. You know what I mean? You can get different things. Why is this thing not moving?
It's supposed to, that's supposed to be like flashing, right? Like there's a light. It's a beautiful necklace. Can I borrow it for Tom?
We just have to have somebody carry it around.
Maybe it didn't charge.
They can carry it around.
I'll sit here like this.
No, just carry the whole stand. Just like the whole stand. Eye level.
You gotta get all the angles.
We're back, baby.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Did we get through hate speech?
Yeah. We're on number 8.
All right, we're on.
Okay.
We talked about what you discussed.
All right, let's talk about the wall. All right, hey, before we talk about the wall, let's talk about immigration. Can we?
Yes.
You got two types of immigration. Actually, you got more than that, but you've got legal and then you've got illegal, right? Now, United States typically takes in close to 1 million immigrants every year. Okay? And if you live in another country and you want to move to the United States, there's a process you can go through to become a U.S. citizen. Okay? It is time consuming, takes a long time, and it's not super cheap. It's not super expensive, but it's not, you got to pay. Now, it's a lot harder to immigrate into Canada. So like some of you like, Trump's president, I'm leaving, I'm going to Canada, or Biden's president, I'm leaving, going to Canada. Okay? Which people always say that stuff. Well, good luck immigrating to Canada. Okay? You better have a degree. Probably going to need a master's degree to move there legally and become a citizen. Because they have much stricter rules about who they take as citizens, who they allow to come into their country. Okay? Try going into Mexico illegally. We have pretty lax immigration laws here. Okay? Now, there's benefits to illegal immigration, and then there's cost to it. Cost benefit, right? So let's look at that. Okay, so with illegal immigration, a lot of times you can get people that are undocumented to work for you for a cheaper wage than U.S. citizens will. Yes? Like, for instance, in the meat packing plants in western Kansas. You guys familiar with the meat packing industry? How's the smell out there? It's not good. It's not somewhere a lot of people would like choose to work at. Okay? Or doing picking fruits and vegetables, which is hard laborious work. Okay? In the hot sun. Or doing roofing construction. Or road construction, which is hot laborious work. that doesn't pay that well. Okay, so what that does, guys, is it brings down the cost for everybody else of things like food and construction costs, which can benefit the economy and your pocketbook. Yes? The cost comes, one, with education. In this country, if a child shows up at a school, we educate them, whether they're here legally or illegally, documented or undocumented, we educate them. In fact, we don't ask. We just do it. Okay? And I think in New York City, there's something like some school districts where like 80 different languages are spoken. Okay? You've got to hire staff to deal with that, which is expensive. You have English as a second language teachers you need, okay? And to help those students get caught up to where this person is not in my class. Hey, where'd you go?
Lexi, her name was Lexi.
413. 313. I don't know. Okay. That's expensive. The other big one is healthcare. Okay, so look, if you don't have health insurance and you need healthcare, you have an emergency, you have a hospital stay, it's extremely expensive. If you don't have insurance and you can't pay for that, the hospital, the doctors, the insurance companies all have to recoup that. And how do they recoup that? By raising prices on those that do have insurance, which makes healthcare for everybody more expensive. There's cost benefit, okay? Now, to be honest, just come from this way. If I was living in Central America under an oppressive regime where there was a lot of violence and no prospect for me to do anything to help raise my family and feed them, would I not consider trying to get into the United States? Wouldn't you? So there, we can't blame people for wanting to come here. Okay? And the vast, vast majority of the people that want to come here for the right reasons. To work and provide for their family. Okay? And some of the hardest workers you will find are those immigrants. Okay? I know people. I got a friend that works out of Andale Ready Mix, big concrete company. It's like he won't hire white people. He only hires Mexicans. Because they freaking work, man. And they're good. You know, I mean, they do their job well. And they're honest. Okay? And so, listen, we can debate legal immigration and stuff like that. When we talk about a wall, what the wall does, in some people's view, is it slows down illegal immigration. Okay? We have between 12 and 20 million people here that are undocumented in this country. Okay? Now, let's be fair and let's be honest. About 40% of those people that are in the country illegally are on expired visas. So they came into the country legally with a visa, like a student visa or a work visa, and never left when their visa expired. You following me? So it's not fair, you know, it's all from Central America. Okay. So with that many people here illegally, we could make some of them citizens, okay, or create a path to citizenship. Reagan did that in the 80s. People that had been in the country for 20 plus years and not committed any crimes were given amnesty and allowed to become citizens. Okay? Why a wall? Because the symptom of the border being open or porous, where people can come through illegally. You can't deal with the 20 or 18, 16, 12 million people that are already here undocumented. How do you deal with those people when more and more keep coming every day? Okay, and we're having the most illegal immigration that we've had in 20 years right now. Okay, so what the border wall would do is slow it down. Guarantee you, guys. Look, San Diego, where there's a wall, there's fewer people coming across than in Texas, where there's no wall. In El Paso, Texas, where there's a wall, there's fewer people coming across than when there is no wall. You follow me? It's not going to completely stop it, but it may slow it enough so that we can get a handle on it. Okay? Now, some people are against the walls. Walls in general. Borders in general. We should allow anybody that wants to come here to come here. Some people are like that. Open borders. Okay? The fact is, though, as a country, we have the right to decide who comes in and who doesn't. That's our right as a country. Okay? So, on this, obviously, this was a big thing for Trump, right? And so, for some people, anything that Trump wanted, they didn't want. Okay? So, now that Trump's gone, then people can just look at the issue and decide what they want to do. Okay? Because it was either, Trump or no Trump. You know what I mean? So, is this a good idea? Can it help us get immigration under control? And then, we can also talk about, you guys know what dreamers are. Dreamers are the people that were brought here as children when their parents came in illegally. The child didn't choose to come in. You know what I mean? So, and some of them, went K through 12, maybe even got into college. Okay, or some can't get into college because they're not citizens, type of thing. Those are dreamers. Okay. Well, how do we deal with that situation? So if you make all the dreamers citizens, guess what's going to happen? More and more pregnant women are going to try and sneak into the country because they know their kids will become citizens. You see what I mean? So it becomes a magnet. So anytime you do the amnesty or you say, okay, we're going to let these people become citizens that are here, then more people are like, I'm coming in, so I can become a citizen. It becomes a magnet. Okay. Not sure how everybody feels about this. But if you think a wall would help bring the situation under control. Okay. Republicans like this issue because they can campaign on it. They can scare people about it. Democrats like this issue because they can say Republicans don't like brown people. They both love this issue. That's why they haven't fixed it. You know what I mean? This debate's been going on for 30 plus years, and they've never addressed it. That's our Congress. Nice job. Okay, so it just continues to bleed. It just continues to be an issue and a problem. If people can sneak into the country, do you think there are bad actors that can sneak into our country that want to harm us? The cartel violence that is in Central and South America and Mexico, can that bleed into our country? And then you have the issue of drug trade, human trafficking. There's a lot of issues here. Okay? So if you feel like a wall would help just kind of bring the border under control and you think that's the right thing to do, then spend the money and build the wall. If you like, I think the wall's a bad idea. We should just use the, border patrol and we could drones and, have, cameras and stuff like that. Maybe hire more border patrol agents, but not a wall. Okay. You decide. Okay, number 9. Guys, death penalty is something certainly you guys talked about in religion class. Just review, right? So the Catholic Church's stance on the death penalty is no, unless right? You cannot, somebody that's a danger to society that's committed murder and will likely commit murder again, you can't contain them. Like in a prison, there's no way to contain them, then you can use the death penalty. But we have what are called maximum security prisons in this country that are very hard to escape from. So if you're going along with the church's stance on that, then you would say in the United States, there's no need for a death penalty. If you're going with the Catholic Church's teaching on it, right? Yes? But the government is not controlled by the Catholic Church. So let's talk about the issue. Okay? Again, this divides a lot of people. In fact, in my house, my wife thinks one way and I think another way. Okay? Most things we agree on. This one we don't. Okay, so what's the benefit of the death penalty? Well, let's talk about the Constitution first. Okay, so the 8th Amendment says that there shall be no cruel and unusual punishment. Again, that was written in 1791 with the Bill of Rights, the 8th Amendment. And in 1791, we were still hanging people for murder. So what was meant by that generally is assumed that the punishment should fit the crime. So somebody shoplifts, you don't cut off their hands. So they don't shoplift anymore. Okay, that would be cruel and unusual punishment, yes? Okay. Now in 1976, Supreme Court said that the death penalty was cruel and unusual. For 4 years, that stood. There was no death penalty. In 1980, the Supreme Court reversed itself and said this is an issue for the states, which is the way it should be. If you want to live in a state where there's a death penalty, you can move to that state. Texas has it. Kansas has it. Arkansas has it. California has it. Massachusetts doesn't. Okay? So some states have the death penalty, some don't. Some states have the death penalty and use it, like Texas and Arkansas and Florida. Some states have it and don't use it, like Kansas and California. So, does it prevent? Now, usually death penalty cases are only for first-degree murder. So first-degree murder being premeditated, capital murder. Okay, you generally don't get death penalty cases for second-degree murder. You just don't. Okay, so if you live in Texas and you're thinking about going and killing somebody, does the fact that you know that if you're caught, you could be killed yourself by the state of Texas, does that prevent you from carrying out the, in other words, is it a deterrent? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really seriously thought about killing somebody, so I haven't really thought about it.
If you have like I would have screwed up in the head. I don't think.
Okay, what about the economics of it? Okay, so you can use statistics any way you want here. Does it cost more to house somebody from the age of 18 to life in prison, life expectancy for a male being around 76 years old? Okay, so you can keep somebody in prison for close to 50 years, feed them 3 meals a day. You're going to have prison guards, all the stuff that it costs to house an inmate for 40 years plus. Or does it cost more to carry out the death penalty? Now, guys, because we don't want to murder somebody or kill somebody that's innocent, the appeals process for death penalty cases is very long. So you don't see justice like carried out quickly. They get a lot of appeals because we want to make sure we get it right. Now, if you're poor and you cannot afford an attorney, what do you get?
State attorney.
Get a public defender. Okay? Now, the state is not going to hire some dude just out of law school to argue a death penalty case, because that case will get overturned on appeal because you did not receive adequate representation. They're going to hire a good lawyer for this death penalty case, which is what? Expensive for the state to buy these lawyers for the defendants. And then the appeals process is lengthy, which costs a lot of money. So in reality, guys, which costs more? Because if you're on death row, you are in a wing of the prison by yourself with other death row inmates, and you got to have guards just for those like few people, which is more expensive rather than being in the general population. So you can twist the numbers how you want. Both of them are expensive. Okay? And then you have the moral ground, right? The moral argument. You go Old Testament here, an eye for an eye, or you can go New Testament on it, turn the other cheek. What about the victim's families? Now, I've read many cases where the victim's families have forgiven the murder. Yeah? Okay? That's one of the hardest things to do, right, is to forgive for people. Okay? You know that. But what if the victim's families are traumatized by this? And to have the knowledge to know that if this person is put to death, they never have to worry about this individual ever again. You guys familiar with the Carr brothers? The Carr brothers, Reginald and Jonathan Carr, about 20 years ago, 18 years ago, they were from Dodge City and they were in Wichita. It was during the wintertime. And they broke into an apartment, like a duplex. And there were 4 college students in there. And they had guns and they held them at gunpoint. And then they took each of them individually to the ATM to withdraw the money out of their accounts. Brought them back to the apartment. Beat them. Made them strip naked. Made them perform sexual acts on each other. And then on them. And then they took them naked out to where K96 and Greenwich are, where Cabela's is today. Now, Cabela's wasn't there. There wasn't even an off-ramp there to get off of K96 there, okay? So you just had the overpass of 96 over Greenwich, okay? So it's just south of that overpass, on the side of the Greenwich, in the snow. They had them kneel on the side of the road. They shot each one of them in the back of the head. One of the girls was wearing a hair clip. Bullet ricocheted off the hair clips. She played dead in the snow. They took off. She walked naked, wounded in the head. There's a body, or there's a pond there. She could see lights from the houses over there. Freezing cold in the snow. Walked naked and bleeding over to a house over there and started banging on the house. She survived. She knew the murderers. That morning, they caught the 2 brothers over by Wichita State, an apartment complex, took them into custody. One of my good friends who used to coach baseball here for me, the parole officer, was in the jail that day. These guys showed no remorse. We're laughing about it. They were tried together, convicted, and sentenced to death in the state of Kansas. They're in El Dorado prison right now. About 40 years ago, in one of their appeals, they appealed that they were sentenced to death. They should have been sentenced separately because Reginald was the leader and Jonathan was just following along. And so they said that they should not have been sentenced together but separately, and that their death penalty should be overturned. The Kansas Supreme Court agreed, and they overturned the death penalty on the Carr brothers. The Attorney General of Kansas appealed that case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that the death penalty should be reinstituted for these two guys. Justice Scalia, who had been a judge for more than 40 years, said this was one of the worst crimes he has ever adjudicated. What they did to these people. These were college kids, good kids, like good kids, like they were virgins. These guys made them perform those acts on each other. Now, you let the Carr brothers just rot in prison for life, or do you carry out justice with the death penalty? That survivor, she's still alive. The families are still around. There was quite a few connections to Bishop Carroll. A lot of people from our school knew those people. So, you decide. Privatize Social Security. Holy cow. All right. This one's going to take us the rest of the time. All right. I'm going to give you an education. Okay. You've all heard of it. How do you have a job? Okay. So, where did you work this summer? Okay. And you got a paycheck? You got taxes taken out, right?
Yeah.
And some of that went to Social Security, right? You know what percent came out? Okay. Corporate caterers, they also had to put in 6.2%. That's called a payroll tax. Okay. Now, Social Security does three things, not one thing. Most people think Social Security is, just retirement for old people. Yes? Like you put money in, and then when you hit 65, you start getting a check. Grandma gets a check. Yes? There's actually three parts. Okay, the other two parts, one is unemployment insurance. So if you get laid off from your job, corporate caterer, you're probably not going to qualify because you're a high school student. But if you're an adult, you get laid off from your job. I get laid off from Bishop Carroll. I can't find another teaching job. I can apply to the Social Security office for unemployment benefits. And I will receive a check each month for up to 26 weeks, which is 6 months, a half a year. You're eligible for unemployment benefits. Okay? Now, I'm not going to get as big of a check as I did when I had a job, but I'm going to get a check. That makes sense? The money for that comes from the payroll tax. Okay? So if you're the employer, you're paying for this unemployment. Okay? Third part is for what's called public assistance or disability. You ever heard of somebody being on full disability? Okay? There's over 8.5 million Americans on full disability right now. Okay? Some on partial. You can't work. You're disabled. You got in an accident. Can't work. Okay? The other part of this is public assistance for the blind, the deaf, and also children that lose a spouse. So if one of your parents passes away, then the surviving spouse is eligible to get a check to help raise the kids. And that money comes into the age of 19. I think most Americans think that's, I mean, these are good things. It's a safety net. Social Security is a safety net. For elderly, disabled, those that fall, like single parent, not single parents, but if you lose a parent, okay? And unemployed, which is temporary. Now, there have been times when the economy is really bad and there's not a lot of jobs out there, that Congress has extended unemployment benefits to 99 weeks. Okay, and then with COVID, guys, we got a whole nother freaking, like, huge dump of money on that, right? Like $600, was it $300 a week? I don't know. Okay, and they're still doing that. You know how many job openings are in this country? There's more job openings in this country than there are unemployed. And guess what's happening to wages?
Way up.
They're going up. But you can still stay home and get that $300 check every week. Come on. Come on now. It's kind of like, somebody's trying to institute something called universal basic income, where everybody gets a check from the government every month. Well, I won't. Because I make too much money. But everybody else, just get a check every month. Universal basic income. You know what that's called? Socialism. Okay? It's like maybe somebody's trying to get us, used to this. Okay? All right. Now, let's talk about Social Security as a whole. Okay? In 1935, the Revenue Act of 1935 created Social Security. It's during the Great Depression. Okay? Now, guys, the retirement age is 65 years old. Okay? I don't know if you know this. Today it's 67. They raised it. Okay? So when you guys retire, and I retire, 67. Okay? I remember about 15 years ago in France, they raised the retirement age to 60, and there were riots in the street. Guys, old people don't riot. It was young people saying, we don't want to work till we're 60. That's what socialism does to. Okay? Now, 65. Life expectancy in 1935. 66. So the average American would be on Social Security for how long?
A year.
Now I'm making this up. So today the retirement age is 67, and life expectancy depends on whether you're a male or a female. Because women live longer, because men are stupid. Okay. Now, here's an interesting statistic, guys. For the first time, this last year, life expectancy in this country went down for the first time since World War I. Okay. Now, I remember this is pre-COVID. It went down like 3 days, 1 year. Okay. And then as the pandemic hit, it went down, a couple of months, not years, just a couple of months. It went down, life expectancy. So for women, it's close to 80. For men, it's closer to 76. So we'll split the difference. 78. So the average American will be on Social Security for 11 years. Now, okay, which means that's more expensive. Yes? Now, this 6.2% is means tested. What that means is you get 6.2% taken out of your income up to the first $109,000 you make. So anything over $109,000 you make is not taxed by Social Security. The reason they do means testing, guys, is because people that make more than this will never get that money out of the system. Guys, Social Security is not welfare. You don't get it if you don't pay into it. So like my wife's Social Security check at 65 or 67 will be larger than mine because she put more money into it than I did. Does that make sense? What's that? Oh yeah, we're getting there. Okay, just trying to get you the nuts and bolts here. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine.
My dad's gonna apparently receive nothing.
Well, we'll see.
He's like, you're not gonna see anything because there's gonna be very much,
Bankrupt.
very much bank.
Okay. Now, this is a graph. You got it. Belly button. So what is this graph about?
Social Security.
1946, the baby boom. The baby boom. After World War II, guys, we had 12 million Americans in uniform. They came home, went back into civilian life, and they got married and they started making babies. You throw into that all the refugees we had from World War II, and then communism. Okay, we had a lot of refugees from communism, and so our population grew. And so you have more people, and these people now are retired. The baby boomers are retired as we speak. That's putting a strain on the system. So the current number under these current models, Social Security will no longer be solvent by 2037. We will not be able to send the check to grandma. Now you're still paying, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But you're paying for grandma. Now the way the system was designed, guys, this 6.2% was supposed to come over here in an account with your name on it and grow over time. Now you weren't going to get interest on it, but that was going to be your nest egg. But in the 1970s, we had all this money in the Social Security fund, and Congress looked at that money and they said, we could do a lot of good stuff with that money. And they raided the Social Security fund. They stole the money. Now, today, the average person, grandma, okay, gets a check for $1,300 a month. That's the average. Some people get more than that. Some people get less than that. Now, you want to live on that? How much is that a year? It's like $15,000 a year. Yeah, you need to start saving for retirement now. Not now, but when you're 21, 22. Dude, it's not a good picture. Okay, it's just not a good picture.
Isn't that what they have IRAs?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So now, how old is that? Kind of old, it's from 2016. We used to get these pay stubs. We don't get them anymore. Okay. I'm the average. Okay, if you look up what the median income in the United States is, median, that's me. Okay, so I'm the average. So I pay in about $300 a month in the Social Security, okay? So how many of me does it take to pay for grandma retire? 4 of us, okay? So as grandma retires, it takes more of me. More grandmas retire, more of me to fund them. Yes?
Yes.
So, we got a problem. Now, what we could do is raise the retirement age again. Or we could cut grandma's benefit. Guys, they call Social Security the third rail of politics. Have you guys been in New York City? Been in the subway? If you fall on the tracks or somebody pushes you on the tracks at the subway, don't touch the third rail because it carries the electrical current and you will fry. If you're a politician and you try and reform or change this system, your political career will fry because old people vote. And if you try and reform the system, the other party is going to say, that person's trying to take away your Social Security. And you won't get elected. They're going to scare people into voting against you. Now, we can reform the system by privatizing. Let me explain that to you. Okay? Ready? So, here's the numbers. This is me. No, this is you. Okay? Now, you put in $300 a month, right? Social Security. You're the average Joe or Jane. All right? Now, we're going to let you take $30 a month. Put it over here. $270 is going to go to grandma. So how are we gonna, we can't lower grandma's benefit. We have to raise taxes. Oh, that's unpopular. Oh,
0.2%.
0.3.
Read.
Oh, my
Okay.
bad.
We're going to raise taxes. Okay, which isn't popular, but it's easier than cutting grandma's benefit. Right? So, now you got $30. Now this is every month. It's 12 times 30. 12 months.
3,600.
Yes.
3,600.
$3,600. That's 1 year, right? Is that right? No, $360.
360.
I was thinking 120. Hey, look, he's my two.
Is it $360?
Yes.
Yes. 10. You got 10.
All right, that's 1 year. You gonna retire on that?
No.
No. Now, where are you putting this money?
Invest.
You're investing it. Okay. So after a year, it's not 360, 400. Okay. Now we're gonna do this in 5-year increments. Okay. And we'll finish that story tomorrow.
Yeah, I know, but then the next year you make it,